My name is Megan, and I never thought at 30 years old my own mother would scream in my face demanding I return $100,000 I never touched. The gut punch wasn't just the accusation, it was how fast my whole family turned on me, convinced I'd robbed my own mom blind. That explosive family dinner with those words slicing through the air hit me hard. Family ties don't mean blind trust. Sometimes the ones who raised you are the first to stab you in the back without a shred of proof. Return the $100,000 or don't come back, my mom yelled, pointing at me. My sister added, "You're a thief." I just smiled and gave them something. The moment they saw it, their faces went pale. Before I dive into my story, I'd love to know what time you're listening and what city you're in. It's amazing to see how far these tales travel. If you've ever been hit with a false accusation from someone you trusted, drop a comment below and hit subscribe. You won't want to miss how this all exploded. I was always the steady one in our family. Growing up in the sunny suburbs of San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles, I learned quick that reliability kept things afloat. My parents worked endless hours to make ends meet in this expensive city where rent and bills never let up. As the older daughter, I stepped up early, handling chores, keeping an eye on my little sister, making sure homework got done. She was 3 years younger, outgoing and charming, the kind who lit up rooms while I stayed in the background planning our next move. Our bond was tight back then, sharing secrets under those California stars, but money was always the shadow hanging over us, arguments about unpaid bills, stretching meals, the constant grind. By 14, I had my first job at a local cafe, splitting my paychecks to help cover costs. They resisted at first, but pride gave way to necessity. That set the tone for who I became, the one they could count on, no questions asked. By my teens, that role as the dependable one was carved in stone. Our house in San Fernando Valley was modest, a stucco 2-bedroom with a tiny backyard, the kind you see all over LA suburbs. My father, a civil engineer, would drag himself home after 12-hour days, his hands calloused from drafting plans for bridges no one ever thanked him for. My mother, a high school teacher, graded papers late into the night, her eyes red from fluorescent classroom lights and endless parent emails. They weren't perfect, but they poured everything into keeping us afloat in a city where costs never stopped climbing. Rent, groceries, car insurance, all biting into their paychecks. I was 12 when I started cooking dinners on nights Mom stayed late for staff meetings. My sister, 3 years younger, was the opposite, always out with friends, her laughter filling the house, her charm pulling everyone in. I didn't mind covering for her, making sure her homework was done or her soccer uniform was clean. But I noticed how my parents' faces softened when she walked in, how they'd laugh at her stories while my straight-A report cards got a quick nod. It wasn't jealousy, just a quiet sting that grew over time. Money was the constant undercurrent. I overheard their hushed fights through thin walls, bills piling on the kitchen counter, Dad's voice sharp about overdue credit cards, Mom's sigh as she calculated how to stretch a grocery budget. At 14, I got a job bussing tables at a diner near our house. The smell of grease clung to my clothes, but every paycheck felt like a small victory. I'd slip half my earnings into Mom's purse, insisting it was for utilities. She'd protest, her voice thick with guilt, but eventually took it. That dynamic stuck me, stepping up, them leaning in, my sister skating by. By 16, I was balancing schoolwork and keeping our family steady while she planned her next beach trip with friends. Looking back, I see how those years shaped us, me as the anchor, her as the free spirit loved without question. Education was my escape from the endless grind of our San Fernando Valley life. High school was a blur of late-night study sessions fueled by black coffee and the dream of financial security, something I'd watched my parents chase forever. I pushed myself hard, acing exams and stacking extracurriculars to land a partial scholarship to UCLA for marketing. Los Angeles is a city that chews up dreamers, but I saw marketing as my ticket, a practical field with real paychecks in a place where rent could swallow you whole. College was brutal. I worked 30 hours a week at a campus coffee shop, steaming lattes for stressed students while juggling a full course load. Some nights I'd collapse on my dorm bed with only 3 hours until my next alarm, my laptop still open to a half-finished campaign pitch or budget spreadsheet. My sister, meanwhile, gave community college a half-hearted try. She dropped out after one semester, saying it wasn't her vibe, and drifted through part-time gigs at trendy boutiques in Santa Monica. Her Instagram was all Venice Beach selfies and rooftop parties while I was drowning in deadlines. Graduation felt like breaking the surface after years underwater. I landed a job at a mid-sized marketing firm in downtown LA, crafting ad campaigns for tech startups. The pay wasn't Hollywood glamour, but it was enough for my own one-bedroom apartment in Culver City, a small victory in a city where a studio can cost $2,000 a month. I started building savings, something I'd never seen my parents do without stress. That stability let me help them out, and I didn't think twice about it. 3 years ago, their ancient AC unit gave out during a scorching August heatwave, leaving them sweating through 100-degree days. I covered half the $6,000 replacement cost, wiring the money without a second thought. When Dad's beat-up pickup truck died on the freeway, stranding him after a long shift, I paid for the repairs, $2,000 to keep him on the road. It wasn't about obligation, it was love, a way to lighten the load for two people who'd fought so hard to raise us in a city that never stops demanding more. I'd sit with Mom sometimes, sipping iced tea on their worn couch, listening to her talk about her teaching days. She'd always been the heart of our family, grading papers late under a flickering kitchen light, her voice gentle even when exhausted. But about 2 years ago, I noticed changes. She'd forget small things at first, misplacing her keys, repeating questions about my work. Then came scarier moments, dizzy spells that left her gripping the counter, her face pale, or shortness of breath after climbing the stairs. I drove her to the doctor one gray morning, my stomach knotted as we waited for answers. The diagnosis hit hard: early-stage heart disease with warnings it could worsen without careful management. A cardiologist laid it out: medication, regular checkups, and maybe surgery down the line. The costs were daunting, especially with their savings already stretched thin by LA's relentless expenses. I stepped in without hesitation. Mom's bank accounts were a mess, scattered passwords, missed bills, so I set up online banking for her. I linked her accounts to automatic payments for utilities and medical copays, checking them weekly to make sure everything was in order. Dad, who'd always hated dealing with numbers, gave me a tired smile over dinner one night. "You're a lifesaver, kid," he said, his voice rough but grateful. I took pride in that role, the one who kept things together, who made sure Mom's prescriptions were filled and her accounts didn't overdraft. My sister, on the other hand, barely noticed. She'd breeze into family dinners with stories about her latest shopping spree or a new guy she was dating, her phone buzzing with notifications. I didn't mind. I was used to carrying the weight. But there was a quiet tension building, a sense that my efforts were taken for granted while her carefree life got all the applause. Looking back, I should have seen the cracks forming, the way trust can erode when love feels uneven. That pride I felt in being their rock, it was about to be turned against me in a way I never saw coming. That Sunday dinner started like any other, the kind we'd had 100 times in our San Fernando Valley home. I brought a tray of homemade lemon bars, Mom's favorite, hoping for a quiet evening after a long week at the marketing firm. The kitchen smelled of grilled chicken, and the table was set with Mom's old floral plates. Dad was in a good mood, joking about his latest engineering project, while Mom seemed sharper than usual, asking about my recent campaign for a tech client. My sister breezed in late as always, scrolling her phone, her nails freshly manicured. We chatted about LA's endless summer, my promotion, Dad's plans for a weekend hike. It felt warm, familiar, like we were still a team. Then Mom's face changed. She cleared her throat, sharp and deliberate, the way she did when grading papers turned serious. "Megan, we need to talk about my bank account," she said, her voice tight. My fork froze midair. "What's wrong? Are the auto payments glitching?" I asked, my pulse ticking up. Mom's eyes narrowed and she slid a folder across the table. "Don't act innocent. We know you misused $100,000. The words hit like a slap. My heart thudded loud in my ears. "Misused, Mom? I didn't touch your money. I check your accounts every week. There's no way." Dad leaned forward, his jaw set. "We have the statements right here," he said, tossing papers from the folder. I scanned them. Online transfer receipts, $5,000 to $10,000 at a time, siphoned over 6 months. The account was in my name as co-signer, but those transactions weren't mine. "This isn't right," I said, my voice shaking. "These aren't my transfers. Someone else got into your account." My sister snorted, leaning back in her chair. "Come on, Megan. You got that fancy new car, those nice dinners out. It adds up." I stared at her, stunned. "My car, I saved for 3 years for that lease. My dinners are client meetings for work. You know that." Mom's voice cracked, her eyes wet. "I trusted you, Megan. That money was for my heart surgery. How could you?" The betrayal in her tone cut deeper than the accusation. "Mom, I'd never do that to you," I pleaded, looking to Dad for backup. He just shook his head. "You're the only one with access besides your mother. No one else could have done this." My sister chimed in, her voice sharp. "You've been distant lately, always busy, secretive. It's obvious you needed the cash." I wanted to scream. Distant, I'd been working overtime to keep their bills paid, to keep Mom's medical appointments on track. The folder stared back at me, transfer confirmations with digital signatures that mimicked Mom's, but something felt off. The dates didn't match my logins. "These signatures aren't hers," I said, pointing at the papers. Someone faked them. Dad's face reddened. Enough excuses. Return the $100,000, Megan, or don't come back here. The ultimatum landed like a brick. My sister crossed her arms, smirking. Just admit it. You're caught. Mom clutched the table, tears spilling. I need that money for my treatment. I thought you cared. I stood, my legs unsteady, grabbing my purse. I didn't take your money, Mom. I'd never hurt you like that. But I'm going to find out who did. Dad's voice followed me to the door. Don't bother coming back until you fix this. I walked out into the warm LA night, the stars blurred by my own tears. My family, the people I'd carried for years, had turned on me in a heartbeat. As I drove back to my Culver City apartment, my shock hardened into resolve. Someone was lying, and my gut told me it was my sister. I wasn't going to let this destroy me. I'd dig up the truth, and when I did, they'd regret ever pointing the finger. Sleep didn't come that night. My Culver City apartment felt too small. The walls closing in as I replayed the dinner, Mom's tears, Dad's cold stare, my sister's smug smirk. I sat at my desk, laptop open, poring over my own bank records to confirm what I already knew. Not a cent of that $100,000 had touched my accounts. By dawn, my shock had turned to anger, and I was ready to fight back. I called in sick to my marketing firm, something I never did, and headed to the bank. As a cosigner on Mom's account, I had every right to dig into the records. Daniel, a friend from UCLA who now worked in bank security, met me at the branch. We'd bonded years ago over late-night study sessions, and he knew enough about my family to sense something was off. This is messy, Megan, he said, pulling up the account on his screen. But you're on the account, so let's look. He printed out 6 months of transaction logs, 10 unauthorized transfers ranging from $5,000 to $12,000, all sent to an unfamiliar online account. The digital signatures looked like Mom's but had subtle differences. The curve of her initials was too sharp, the spacing uneven. Someone's faking her login, I said. My voice tight. Daniel nodded. I can pull security footage for the recent transfers. The bank keeps it for 90 days. I asked him to cue it up, my pulse racing. But keep this quiet for now, I added. It's family. Next, I met my friend Nicole, a financial analyst at a big firm downtown, at a coffee shop off Wilshire Boulevard. I slid the transaction logs across the table. This screams fraud, she said after a glance, her eyes narrowing. Follow the money trail. Whoever did this is either spending big or hiding it. She pointed me to social media. Public posts could reveal spending patterns without crossing legal lines. I spent hours that night scrolling my sister's Instagram. Her feed was a parade of excess, a designer handbag from Rodeo Drive, dinners at upscale LA restaurants, a weekend trip to Vegas with her boyfriend posted just 2 months ago. None of it matched her part-time boutique job. Suspicion gnawed at me. Could she really do this to Mom? The next day, I grabbed a coffee at a shop near her Venice apartment, hoping to clear my head. By chance, she and her boyfriend walked in, sitting 2 tables away. Their voices carried in the quiet cafe, and I caught fragments that made my blood run cold. We just need to keep the blame on Megan, he said, his tone casual. She's got no proof. My sister's voice was tense. She's been asking questions. If the bank digs deeper, we're screwed. I froze, pretending to read my phone, memorizing every word. He laughed. Relax. I told you those investments will pay off. We'll replace the money. Investments. That didn't add up. I remembered his LinkedIn claiming to be a financial advisor, but no company listed. My sister sounded desperate. What about Mom's surgery? I didn't mean for it to go this far. His reply was sharp. Focus on us. Your parents will figure it out. I left the cafe shaking, jotting down their exact words in my notes app. Back home, I dug deeper into her social media. A post from 3 months ago showed a new leather jacket, $2,000 easy. Another had her posing in front of a sleek rental car for a weekend getaway. The math didn't lie. Her lifestyle screamed money she didn't earn. I cross-checked the transaction dates with her posts, every big transfer lined up with a flashy purchase or trip. Then I found a private message she'd accidentally left public, replying to a follower, just investing with my guy, big returns soon. That sealed it. Her boyfriend wasn't just complicit, he was pushing her into some shady scheme, likely pocketing the cash himself. I called Daniel again. Can you check if those transfers went to a personal account or some investment platform? He confirmed the money funneled to an obscure online brokerage, one flagged in fraud alerts Nicole had mentioned. The platform required Mom's login credentials, which my sister had access to from years of borrowing her phone. I took screenshots of her posts, noted the overheard conversation, and compiled everything into a file. My hands trembled as I saved it, not from fear but from fury. My sister wasn't just misusing Mom's money for clothes and trips. She was tangled in a scam, letting me take the fall. The pieces fit, but I needed one final confirmation. I set up a lunch with her, hoping she'd slip up and give me more to work with. At a taco spot in Santa Monica, she showed up 15 minutes late wearing sunglasses that cost more than my monthly rent. Nice shades, I said, keeping my tone light. Work must be good. She shrugged. Just a gift from my boyfriend. I pressed casual but pointed. You've been living it up lately, Vegas, new clothes. How do you afford it? Her smile faltered. Why do you care? Still mad about Mom's money? I leaned in. I didn't take it. I'm trying to figure out who did. She rolled her eyes. Give it up, Megan. The bank statements don't lie. Her phone buzzed nonstop, and when I asked if it was her boyfriend, she snapped, mind your own business. That defensiveness was the last clue I needed. Driving home, I felt a fire in my chest. The truth was clear, and I was ready to bring it all crashing down. With a file full of evidence, screenshots, transaction logs, my notes from that overheard cafe conversation, I was ready to face my family. I called ahead to make sure they'd all be at the house, insisting my sister be there too. Driving to San Fernando Valley, my hands gripped the steering wheel, my heart pounding, not from nerves but from a cold, sharp clarity. This wasn't just about clearing my name, it was about making them see the truth they'd ignored. I walked into the familiar living room, the air thick with tension. Mom sat in her usual armchair, looking frail, her hands twisting a tissue. Dad stood by the window, arms crossed, his face unreadable. My sister lounged on the couch, her phone in hand, but her usual confidence seemed forced, her eyes darting to me. I set my laptop on the coffee table and opened the file. I didn't take your money, Mom, I said, my voice steady, but I know who did. I pulled up the bank's transaction logs first, showing 10 unauthorized transfers totaling $100,000. These went to a shady online brokerage, not my account. The digital signatures aren't yours. Look at the spacing. The initials. I clicked to the security footage Daniel had pulled, showing my sister logging into Mom's account from a public library computer, her face clear as day. Mom gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Dad's jaw tightened, but he stayed silent. My sister's phone slipped from her hand. That's not me, she stammered. You edited this. I ignored her and showed the screenshots, her Instagram posts flaunting a $2,000 handbag, a Vegas trip, a rental car, all timed with the transfers. You've been spending money you don't have. I said, my gaze locked on her. And I heard you at the cafe with your boyfriend, planning to pin this on me. He's been pushing you to invest Mom's money in his fake schemes. I read from my notes, he said. Keep the blame on Megan, she's got no proof. You said, if the bank digs deeper, we're screwed. Her face went white, her hands shaking. You were spying on me, she snapped, but her voice cracked. Explain yourself, Mom said, her voice sharp, despite her tears. All of it now. My sister crumpled, tears streaming down her face. I didn't mean to hurt you, she sobbed. My boyfriend said his investment platform would double the money. I thought I could replace it before anyone noticed. I was drowning in debt, closed trips I couldn't stop. He said it was a sure thing. I cut in, my voice hard. He's not even a licensed advisor. He's a con artist, and you let him use Mom's surgery money. Dad finally spoke, his voice low. You let us believe Megan did this. You watched us throw her out. She looked away, sobbing harder. I was scared. I thought you'd forgive me like always. That hit me like a punch. She'd banked on their favoritism, knowing they'd never cut her off the way they did me. I opened the family group chat on my phone, attaching the footage and screenshots. I'm sending this to everyone, aunts, uncles, cousins, I said. They deserve to know the truth. My sister lunged forward. No, Megan, please, they'll hate me, Mom's voice broke through. You did this to yourself. But her eyes were on me, filled with guilt. We blamed you, Megan. I'm so sorry. Dad nodded, his face heavy. We were wrong. We should have trusted you. I shook my head. You didn't just doubt me, you chose her side without a question. I've carried this family for years, and you threw me out like I was nothing. I turned to my sister. You don't get a pass because you were scared. You let me take the fall for your lies. I reported her boyfriend to the Better Business Bureau that morning, attaching evidence of his unlicensed schemes. The authorities would dig into him, and I hoped he'd face real consequences. My sister's phone buzzed, family members already replying in the group chat, their messages a mix of shock and anger. How could you, one aunt wrote. Mom clutched her tissue, whispering, my surgery fund. It's gone. I stood, closing my laptop. I'm done. You'll figure this out without me. I've spent my life fixing your messes, and I'm not doing it anymore. My sister sobbed, begging me to stay, but I walked to the door. Dad called after me. Megan, we can fix this. I didn't turn back. You can't fix trust. Driving away, I felt lighter than I had in years. I moved forward, focusing on my career, my friends, my own life in LA, free from their weight. That betrayal taught me a brutal lesson. Blood doesn't guarantee loyalty. Family can be the first to betray you, and sometimes the only way to heal is to walk away. I learned to prioritize myself, to protect my peace over their chaos. If you're stuck in a toxic relationship, look for the truth and don't be afraid to let go. It's the only way to find real freedom. Thank you for listening to my story. If it hit home, please like, subscribe, and drop a comment sharing your own experience with betrayal. Your stories remind me I'm not alone, and I'd love to hear them.